Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to Pre-Heresy and Codices, where I look at one Space Marine Legion per ramble, giving you my thoughts on what Codex or Codices would best represent that Legion in a 40k army list build, and then talk a little bit about collecting that force. On the chopping block this time is the Ultramarine Legion. The Ultramarines are the largest of all the legions, and right off the bat, looking at their color scheme hasn't really changed pre to post heresy. There's a bit more gold in it, perhaps, but because you only have one image to go on for looking at their color scheme from Forge World thus far, that and based on some of the old images we have of them in terms of during the pre-heresy time period, there really isn't a color change pre to post heresy. I can't tell you if they do stuff with the shoulder pad trim to denote company or whatever like the chapter does post heresy, but as far as the main color scheme, there is no change. I also do not know, because we don't have any information on the Ultramarines yet in a Forge World book, so I do not know if their Unification era color scheme was any different or anything like that. So that will be something I'll be updating. I'll be updating this entire ramble basically once the Ultramarines get published in a Forge World Horus Heresy book, and once their miniature range comes out for that as well. So with that being said, the one thing that doesn't ever change is what Codex would best represent them. And for my money, in my opinion, the best Codex to represent them is the generic Space Marine Codex. I'm not saying it's purpose-built for the Ultramarines, especially not this incarnation, but the Ultramarines have basically always had the most special characters per chapter. You know, Imperial Fist, get one. Crimson Fist, get one. White Scars, get one. You get my idea. The only thing that has multiples in this codex is the Black Templars, aside from the Ultramarines. The Ultramarines have the most special characters in it, and basically, you know, for me, for that, it shows a bit of like a bit of care for the Ultramarines in this codex. So definitely, I feel it's the best codex to represent them. They got their own chapter tactics, of course. That plus the number of special characters you could take as accounts as if you want to really is going to help make it feel very Ultramarine-like for you. Now, we are talking about a post-heresy codex to represent a pre-heresy force, so there are restrictions. No Land Raider Crusaders or Redeemers, no Centurion squads, no Legion of the Damned, and I stay away from the Flyers. But everything else is good to go. And because the Ultramarines, you know, they follow the word of the Primarch so closely, and the Codex Astartes, which is what he later penned, basically dictates the methodologies of warfare for any theater of war for the Space Marines, and the Ultramarines really follow it hardcore, just as they really follow their Primarch's teachings back during the pre-heresy and everything. They're really good at basically any style of warfare. So, whereas, you know, the World Eaters or the Blood Angels would really prefer a certain methodology of warfare, and while they can do other fighting, they're really known for one style of fighting. Same thing with the Raven Guard and other legions as well. The Ultramarines are really known for being able to adapt to any theater of war. And I bring this up and I'm harping on because that means you can build whatever army list you want for them. You can build whatever army list you wanted for any legion and it would still work, because we're talking about a legion. This is a big force we're talking about, especially for the Ultramarines, being that they are the biggest legion. But if you built a World Leaders force that was dedicated to nothing but shooting and that's it, yeah, it could work, but it would feel a bit weird, would it not? So it wouldn't really feel very World Eatery as we come to know them. So that's why I bring this up. I'm not going to say, oh, I recommend building a force a particular way. With the Ultramarines, build it however. So that's the codex that would best represent them. And the one thing I will say is, accounts as Monaeus Calgar, sure you could do it, but keep in mind the Gauntlets of Ultramar were won by the Primarch. He basically recovered them, and he basically used them during that time period. So you would have to come up, not that you would have to, but if you're thinking about it yourself in terms of the fluff of your force, why would the first captain have, which is basically like, you know, the second in command of the Legion essentially, why would he have the weapons that the Primarch had? You know, just something to think about. Still, I think he's a usable character, so no big deal. Now, when it comes to collecting an Ultramarine force, there's not much to go on at all. We don't have anything Ultramarine specific for the Horus Heresy just yet. All of the generic Legion Astarte stuff will work just fine for this Legion and any Legion. Remember the basics. No Mark 7 power armor, and you gotta use Cataphractii or Tartaros pattern Terminator armor. That's the basics. From there, you go for it. So, from Forge World, there's two things that we do have access to that could work for us still. The etched brass for the Ultramarines, and aside from the etched brass, we have the decal sheet for the Ultramarines. Now remember, Forge World decal sheets are pretty big, so you're going to get plenty of Ultramarine symbols to use. Most all of the decal sheet and most all that etched brass is going to be usable for the Pre-Heresy time period. So at least that's nice, especially if you're going to be investing a lot in Forge World armor marks. You're not going to get decal sheets with them, so that'll help you out a lot. Other than that, nothing else really usable from Forge World. They have an Ultramarines Dreadnought, but it's really post-Heresy. It's got Tyranid trophies on its banner and on its leg and everything. So, for me, I wouldn't want to use it because you could paint it up drastically different color-wise. It's still going to be a Tyranid head. So, in terms of painting up the Tyranid trophy, you could paint it up in some weird color or all browns, whatever. It's still going to be a Tyranid head. So, for me, I wouldn't use it for a Pre-Heresy Dreadnought. So on GW's side of things, you basically have their Venerable Dreadnought to use as a Mark IV Dreadnought, if you want to go that route. And we have basically two things. We have Captain Sicarius' model. If you build it with the bare head that comes with it, or if you build it using a Mark VI or older head from one of the bits you may have, and then make sure his left hand holds the plasma pistol, not the helmet he would be wearing, you're good to go because it's a Mark 7 helmet in both situations. But you put a bare head or a different helmet on him, given the plasma pistol bit that's in his little blister, it's a really cool looking piece of armor. It was definitely screams Ultramarines. It can work very well for the Pre-Heresy time period, so I highly recommend it. That's why I'm talking about it here. The other thing I would recommend, not so much purchasing the kit as it's sold now, but if you can definitely find them individually, is the Ultramarines Honor Guard. I think they look amazing. They're one of my favorite Space Marine models out there, to be honest. I really like the Ultramarines Honor Guard. If you can get one for your Ultramarines Legion, get it. Even if it's just one, it could be your HQ because it looks that cool, or it can even be one of your sergeants or squad leaders for whatever squad. They're definitely going to help make your force stand out a bit more. It's going to help by showing, it's not going to be too repetitive. You're not going to have a million of those guys, like you would Mark III or Mark IV armor or whatever it is. So it'll help it feel more Ultramarine-like. Aside from just being painted as Ultramarines with Ultramarine decals, you have that sculpted stuff, which looks really cool. So definitely recommend that. Other than that, though, there's Ultramarine shoulder pads from GW, but that's about it. So really not much to say on the collecting side for the Ultramarines just yet, but rest assured, once they get an entry in a Forge World Horus Heresy book, they will be getting bits and kits from Forge World. And because the Ultramarines have a pretty cool Roman, you could say Greco-Roman, but I feel they're more Roman, where Blood Angels are a bit more Greco. So I feel that the Ultramarines have a lot of Roman features and aspects that the Forge World will capitalize on when they make the bits and kits for them. So I'm looking forward, I'm eager to see that whenever that happens, and I have no idea when that will be. But anyways, that's it for the Ultramarines Legion. Thanks for sticking it out, even though there wasn't too much to say on the collecting end. The next Legion on the chopping block is going to be the Death Guard Legion, so stay tuned for that one. Thanks for sticking through it, and until next time, take it easy.